Welcome back to the Tide here. I'm hanging. Happy Friday, everybody. I want to talk to you today about collector fatigue. I'm calling it Transformers fatigue, but it's pretty much any collecting, any hobby, anything you do, you can have fatigue. It's something that can manifest itself in many different ways. Maybe you're overwhelmed by too much stuff coming out. Maybe there's not enough stuff coming out. Maybe you're just bored with it, or maybe you don't find the joy in this. But hobbies are good for a multitude of reasons. They distract you from your day-to-day, everyday activities. They also challenge your mind thinking about something else that you wouldn't normally think about. And also, it's fun, it's enjoyment, it can bring you back to a time that was simpler and more fun and enjoyable and exciting, and remind you what life is. Give a scope of life. That's what transforming the hobby means to me, and it means that to a lot of other people. But sometimes you lose that focus because of collector fatigue. I'm going to talk about the reasons why and how to overcome it coming up. So before we get into talking about transformer fatigue and collector fatigue and all that kind of stuff, one thing that will alleviate some of these problems that we're going to talk about is saving some money. Right now we have this Shozy sale. If you're watching this early in the morning, you have a few hours left, and you can get 5% back, 5 times points rewards, 5% back in rewards for what you buy if you're a premium member. And there's lots of coupons, lots of flash sales and stuff. And I've done my stuff. I think I've saved about $20 today had I not been part of this. And that might not sound like a lot, but every bit counts this day and age, especially for me. I don't know if it does for you, but it really does for me. I enjoyed this sell, so I hope you do too. So first off, the reasons why collector fatigue sets in: a lot of times boredom, lack of excitement, lack of reveals, lack of anything going on in the community, and the little bit of stuff that is going on isn't exciting. It's kind of boring. One of the problems that we see with Transformers specifically is that a lot of the Masterpiece Transformer releases are just figures that are replacement figures. Maybe even have a better one than what's coming out, or what's coming out is marginally better. What's exciting about that? That's not exciting at all. That's not very much fun, but that's one of the problems that we face. I like to talk about this Spindrift 2.0 when it comes to boring. Not that it's a bad figure or there's anything wrong with it, but it really is one of those figures that it sits on the shelf. It's not very exciting. Not a lot of people like it. Kind of boring. We want some excitement in this game, and let's talk about the next issue because it really is tied to this one. The next issue I want to talk about is Feast or Famine. It's kind of like there's a drought and then there is a tsunami. So I'm really going to talk about this Feast or Famine. Sometimes you have just a ton of reveals, a ton of figures showing up, and other times you have nothing. We're going to talk real quick about the drought, then the feast. So the famine, then the feast. When it comes to famine in the Transformers community, especially with the Masterpiece third-party Transformers, it is the Chinese New Year that really cuts like 2 months out of everything. Now this is the famine part of it, but it's going to be coming up. It's every single year, but between now and then, we should see a lot of releases. Companies are going to be trying to push out as many figures as they can so that they can enjoy their New Year themselves, but during that sort of cutoff time frame that it's a famine, they know what's happening. We're going to be feasting from now till then. So with all the figures that are already released or on the way, and we're going to see between now and then, really, I don't know exactly which ones are coming, but it's kind of exciting. This is the exciting part like this. But excitement for a few figures could turn into overwhelming because there's so much coming in. There is so much overwhelming you right now. X-Transbots has like 50 reveals because of all the repaints and all that stuff going on. Fans Toys is putting out a few reveals, but it's more of a distraction reveals. And so there's a whole lot going on right now. This actually could be overwhelming for the next 6 months of not just reveals, because there's 2 more cons coming up, and also releases, pre-orders all hitting at the same time. So another issue with the Feast or Famine is when all of these pre-orders hit at the same time. If you collect more than just Masterpiece, you collect Legends, you collect Mainline, that can hit you all at the same time and be a massive financial burden all at once. The pre-orders hitting at the same time. When you go so long without buying anything, and now everything's being called for at the exact same time, that can overwhelm somebody, and that can also be a major cause of collector fatigue or Transformers fatigue. So the next cause of Transformers fatigue or even collecting fatigue is FOMO, fear of missing out. Now there's a lot of issues with this fear of missing out, and I think Brink on Rebel Collectors he called it JOMO, the joy of missing out, the just passing on stuff. But fear of missing out, like, we really don't know how good these two figures are going to be from Fans Toys. They're Scourge, or they just call them sweeps, but also the Power Glide, and there's a few others that are released, but revealed. I did not get in on these. These sold out ultra fast as Show Z. Other places might put them up. We might be able to get them, but I actually have a way I know I'm going to be able to get them for sure. But looking at all this, these two figures are part of FOMO because we have them already from other companies, but we're going to pay a double, triple price to get them from Fans Toys. Possibly, we don't really know yet, because of the fear of missing out. Will it be that much better? And then by the time it's actually released, it's going to be really expensive or hard to get. So let's jump on these pre-orders now, and let's buy them as soon as they come out, sight unseen, and not really knowing if they're going to be the best. So the next one I want to talk about is when your hobby gets in the way of your life, and it starts to hurt your lifestyle. That is a serious fatigue of Transformers, fatigue of collecting, fatigue of any hobby out there. And it's one of those things that everything in life needs a balance. And I've done this myself. I've gone too deep with 40-something vintage toy lines and like 25 modern toy lines and all that kind of stuff. So I have to definitely put some boundaries on my collecting, or I will need to quit. So I put the boundaries on there so I don't have to quit. Now, a lot of people say, well, the solution's quit. We're going to talk about solutions in a bit. But when it starts affecting your life, when you can't pay, if you can't pay your bills, if you can't take care of your family, and all those kinds of things because you're collecting, these are real-world issues, real-world problems that sort of set in, and this causes a massive level of fatigue, and you've got to step back and look at it and go, what's really important? So what's important is having some sort of boundaries, limits, budgets, and figuring this stuff out on your own. Everybody's situation is different, and everyone seems to think, I can just buy everything out there. I can't. I have to have boundaries myself. Maybe I can skip a few meals, and I could not buy that new clothes or sneakers or whatever. Anyway, everyone's situation is different. So the last cause that I believe causes this Transformers fatigue, and it's more specific to Transformers than most of the other lines that we collect and other hobbies, is the massive amount of time that you have to wait to get these things. From the reveals, which create the buzz and the excitement, to we just got Acoustic Wave, which is pushing a decade. These other ones aren't quite there yet. 5 to 7 years on the Berserk, and then Chomp's not that far along. But still looking at that long wait to get these figures, still not knowing when you're going to get them. And as you're waiting, the price almost doubled on Berserk. It's crazy, and it's frustrating. And stuff like this, like, I can't get what I want, why would I stay in it? This frustrates people. So, starting to talk about solutions and how to work through this, the biggest problem with people when it comes to this is they just want to quit. And I gotta say, we're going to talk about that coming up, but I want to say, before you quit, you need to step back and prioritize. What do you want out of your hobby? What characters are you looking for? What is it that you're an end goal? Is there an end game to your collecting? Well, an end game to collecting sounds sad and depressing in a way, because collecting is sort of an organic hobby that you constantly are changing your collection. Even if it's one piece every month or two, you're organically changing your collection. But you want to prioritize. So with that prioritizing is reevaluating what you really want and what you don't, and canceling some pre-orders. Now, I personally did this. I did this because I looked everywhere at all my pre-orders at all of the different places between Show Z, BBTS, and TF Source, and a few other places. They all carry slightly different products, and I have a lot of stuff going on, and I had over 100 pre-orders. I canceled 15 of them. I still have 85 pre-orders out between all of the different places. It's a bit much. I might have to reorganize that myself too. But that is to keep from having this problem. This is a very expensive hobby to be in. And I don't care what anybody says. You have to prioritize on this. And you can't buy everything that's out there. But the stuff that you do buy, you want to know you're going to enjoy it. So the next point I want to bring up is selling off your excess. So when you get into this collector fatigue and you want to just quit, I would say sell some stuff that's extra. But you really need to reevaluate that if it's something that you really, really want, you need to keep it. So like this Fans Toys Quiet as Tea may not surface again once everything's sold out and may be a ridiculously expensive figure. Also, the Make Toys Contact Shot, if you have one of those, they may never make it again. So these are some things that you may consider never selling, even if you are sick of the hobby and you're done, you're throwing in the towel. You might hold on to some of your favorites or some of the ones that are going to be harder to reacquire because everything in life is cyclical, including collecting. But the best cure for collector fatigue is to take a break. There's problems with taking a break from a hobby. If you take a break from a hobby, you might miss out on some of the higher end releases that are going to be super expensive down the road. But maybe that's what you need. If that's what you need, that's what you need. If you take a break and you miss out on something, you get back into the hobby and it's like, whoa, I missed that. I missed this. I've been in this for 26 years and I miss stuff. I pass on things and down the road they're more expensive. And sometimes I just step up and like, okay, whatever, I got to pay what I got to pay to get on the secondary market if I really want it. But if you truly need to take a break, take a break. It's not the end of the world. Take a break from your collecting, take a break from your hobby, and get back into it as strong as ever. If it's not fun anymore, or you're not finding joy in it, then it's not doing you any good. But on the flip side, I still have fun. I have a lot of fun with this hobby. I find a lot of joy in it. And I've gone through this collector fatigue in the past. And it's much easier to talk about while you're not going through it. And I think it's much more helpful to have a video, because I would have been super depressing had I done it while I was going through a collector fatigue time frame. Anyway, let me know what you think about this topic. Like and subscribe. Titanium Hanger out.